Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about a game between Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky some time ago. It's like 1900s, I think. And basically this game, Fischer was black and Spassky was white. And basically, yeah, it's pretty interesting of a game. So I'm gonna go into detail later, so let's get started. So, as you see here, Fischer's black. And so, white played d4, and black played knight f6, and queen, not queen, c4. That's what white played. And then this starts to turn into, I believe it's the King's Indian. And then white just goes for a big center, black. I think Fischer always plays, or most times plays, King's Indian as black. So it's not surprising that he played it in this game. And then bishop, knight, and then knight here. Basically, what white wants to do is just like develop a big center. That's usually a point of every single King's Indian defense game. Black like kind of scrunches up and then just like takes control of the e5 square, while white just like has a big center, but then black will strike back at the center. So then a6, queen d2, it's kind of like normal over here, basically just like regular development. Rook to b8 for black, and basically this kind of starts a pawn push. It kind of like reflects later in the game, because then it will give white some queenside pressure. Like white would be pressured on a queen side, because black is positioning his rook that way. So then because of this, white decides to strike back on the king side at the black king. But that's going to be kind of hard because black has a fianchetto bishop, so it kind of adds an extra layer of defense in addition to the bishop looking at the queen side of the board. And so before white could proceed with his queenside attack, black goes to h5, kind of like stopping the white h pawns from moving forward, and also stopping the pawn push g2 to g4, because then like there's the light square bishop on c8, there's the knight on f6, and there's the pawn in h5, all looking at the g4 square, while for white there's only the pawn on f3 that's defending that square. So of course, not that surprising, white decides to do this, mainly because this will give white the advantage of like these kind of squares. If black trades, for example, like if black goes and bishop takes, and then the queen takes back, then the queen will be on h6, and it will be pretty, black won't be in a comfortable position, let's just say that. Like, white will have a lot of pressure, and it's probably not going to be favorable. I'm pretty sure, though, there are some lines where bishop takes h6. As you can see here, I think, yeah, there is a line right here. And then this, yeah, it just goes on like that. But so back to the game though. White plays here, and then black goes to e5. Basically, what the king's Indian is all about, just like trying to strike with pawn e5. And then bishop takes here. Obviously, king takes back. And this kind of like stops white from moving his queen to h6. And then afterwards, white just closes in the center, which might be pretty good because white isn't castled at all. If you try to open up the center, he'll pretty much be doomed. So knight moves back, and then knight to g3, and then c6, yeah. And then so basically here it kind of seems a bit drawish. Pawn takes, knight takes, and so yeah, basically there's not really much of a change here. Like as you could see on the side, who has more advantage, white or black? It's roughly equal. So it's a pretty drawish position, and but here the knight that was on e7 goes to c6, knight c6, and basically that kind of frees up the knight. And then here the king castles on the queen side, kind of doubling up on a d file, but at the same time it kind of like runs white's king into the pawn push. Like let's say like these two pawns, pawn on a file and pawn on b file for black, they could just march down, and I mean white has a pretty good control over the b5 square though, but like it kind of poses a threat. So bishop e6, basic development, king moves in, and then knight back to e8, knight goes forward. I guess like white took this opportunity to like march his knight towards d5, since this knight went backwards, and it doesn't defend that square anymore. And so now black took this opportunity and basically moved up to b5, because now white's knight is not doing anything there. Even though on the side, on the bar, it says white has like very slight advantage. I don't think that slight advantage will actually like help him win in any sort, but like it still shows that white has a small advantage somehow. So then white's knight goes back, and yeah, so this I think this was more of a maneuver for white, but I can't be sure. With white's knight on d5, he could have been just trying to control like the center from there, or he could have just been maneuvering his knight down to e3. So who knows? But here black now has a small advantage, not much. And then rook moves over. I think that's like some sort of rook maneuver. Either that or like maybe just get some space on f8 for some sort of piece, or it's just like to stall for time, see what white wants to do. So he just moves the rook over, just like some sort of useless move, because sometimes in chess you want to play like cat and mouse. So like you want to make you kind of don't want to move anything on your turn, and you just want to see what your opponent will be doing. So you just do that. Rook to c1, and it seems like black has a small advantage. Now queen to here, and just double up on the b file. Bishop here, and then knight here. Kind of like take control over central squares and some of white's territory. Now white counters with his attack of his own, and queen just goes back because obviously the queen was in danger. But apparently white has some sort of advantage. Probably the most advantage ever seen in this game so far, according to chess.com. So afterwards, white's knight goes down, also bringing down his advantage. So yeah, so white's knight goes down, most likely for a maneuver of some sort. Maybe he wants to move knight to I don't know, e3, or like maybe bring it to e3 and then maybe d1 and then c3, maybe. That's just my guess. And then knight goes here, counter, because obviously black doesn't like white's knight being there. So then white's knight goes to e3, kind of guard that knight on d5 because he still wants to maintain that central knight. So then bishop takes, pawn takes, and then rook on b goes to c8, and basically kind of want to trade the rooks on the c file. So white doesn't want to do that, but then that kind of gives black that the c file, and black kind of has a good control over it. Like black is able to control c8, c7, c5, and possibly c6 if he just had like, yeah, so it could be c6 as well, c4 maybe, and then c2 maybe, but not that likely because like there's still other white pieces guarding c2. Queen goes here, and then pawn up. I guess white tries to like get some sort of advantage. Was a kingside push, and then black goes back, because obviously g5 will threaten him. So white closes in the king side of the board, and basically this kind of like squeezes black in. Like black's knight cannot go back to f6, and black's queen cannot go to f6. The king can't go to f6 or h6, and the rook can't go to h6. But the pawn can go to f6, but black moves back, and this kind of cuts the connection of the rooks. I mean, not a big deal though. It could still join together by the king moving out of the way again. So rook goes up, king moves over, pretty weird. And apparently white has a pretty big advantage now. I don't see what's happening though. According to one variation, it says here, this could happen, and then this could happen, this could happen, and basically, yeah, I don't know what's happening here. I think this kind of like relieves white of the pressure that he has, and it kind of gives him an attacking edge. And so it's just kind of annoying for black, because now black's king is in the center, and white he's not really in any big danger. So yeah, so king went down, and now bishop goes down to f1. Black's knight goes to c5. Bishop around, attack the rook. Rook just moves up, and rook over. And apparently that was some sort of mistake, because look on the left, the advantage bar apparently shows that white has a pretty good advantage, but then it goes all the way down with that one move. So apparently that was like some sort of mistake, not a huge mistake, but some sort of small mistake. Yeah, that kind of happens. So basically, yeah, so the knights, both black knights on c5 and d4, they're looking at the b3 square. So basically, moving this rook over kind of allows that a fork to happen. So basically, this happens, and basically the queen and rook, they're both forked. But then the pawn takes, knight takes back, again they're forked. Rook goes up. Yes, yeah, so rook goes up, and apparently that was like some sort of blunder. Because here, after a pawn takes, knight takes, and then apparently, look, at the advantage bar, all of a sudden white's advantage goes down. So it was like some sort of big blunder on white's end. Basically, probably because loses queen, or it also kind of like opens up white's king. So it's kind of bad. So obviously, black takes, rook takes, king moves over. White's advantage is still down low. Rook takes that pawn. Rook goes here, trying to make him trade. Rook goes here, king there, and then bishop here. I guess trying to get as many pawns as possible. Ooh, sacrifice. A rook sacrifice, basically, to set him up in a position where he's not gonna be safe. Because like this position, this rook move kind of drags white's king to a1, and now after he takes, there's a check, and this check basically was like some sort of like it forks the king and the knight, the king on a1 and the knight on e3, because so this rook move makes white do this, and then now, yes, it's an exchange, a rook for a knight, and it's not that great in terms of points. Like knight is 3 points and rook is 5 points. But thing is, now black has some sort of like advantage, because first he's attacking white's pieces, and second, he could easily march that b pawn down and try to get some checks or maybe a checkmate in. And white's advantage is still pretty low. So obviously white guards his rooks. And then this was the point where basically white resigned. So that was it for the game. But according to some variations up here, there's one where this might happen, and then this might happen, and basically just like black kind of destroys all of the pawns. There's a check, this, and of course white didn't want to take with the bishop, because then he'll lose the rook on e2, and then black just goes here and just like takes all the pawns, and white's rook goes here, black takes, white takes, and then this, and it's just kind of, yeah, so basically white takes, queen takes, and king takes, and then you have a nice pass pawn. So black pretty much has an advantage, and black's king is like so nicely tucked in on g7. It's kind of unlikely that white will actually get a checkmate. Like here, I mean, it's roughly equal in terms of point counts. like a bishop and a rook is generally thought to be better than a queen, a lone queen. But like in this case though, this lone queen is kind of better because it's just a position. Like you can't always say that a bishop and a rook are better because the queen itself can like go anywhere, while the bishop and the rook, they can't go anywhere. One could go to point X and another could go to point Y, but they can't both go to point Z or something. While the queen could go to point Z. And then rook goes here, kind of, yeah, it drags out. And yeah, white is pretty much doomed. There's absolutely no hope for him anymore. So yeah, I guess that'll be it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and learned a lot in this Grandmaster game review. If you guys did, leave a like, subscribe, and click that notification bell to see more test videos.